I just wanted to talk to you about the sort of thing that I am eating now. And, you know, here we've got a nice green smoothie and a couple of kind of oat-based energy bars, if you like, both of which, my wife and I eat these almost daily, pretty well daily. And although I don't have a green smoothie every day, I must admit, I do have quite often. So I thought I'd just break down what there is in here. And again, I'm probably talking to the converted, but you know, I always put a banana in my smoothies. Well, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but you know, we all know that bananas are high in potassium. And then the great thing about fruits and plant-based diets, you know, sources of vitamins, sources of minerals, sources of some of the essential amino acids and so on. So, you know, banana's good. I then like to add an avocado or half an avocado. You've probably heard of David Wolfe, who's quite prominent on the internet on raw diets. I did see him talking, incidentally, he tweeted something recently and I replied and said rubbish. He was talking absolute rubbish, but that's another matter. He said, and I'm not quite sure where he's got this from, that you must add some fat, some lipid to your smoothies, because it's only by having lipid there that you actually absorb the important nutrients. Now, I don't quite understand why that would be. I haven't really researched it properly. So he was suggesting you should put avocado in there, or you should put in some kind of non-dairy milk, which I tend to do as well. Now again, you know, you look at what avocados have got, you know, masses of vitamins, minerals and so on. I usually like to add spinach, and again, you know, spinach contains quite a bit of potassium. It also contains lots of vitamin A, it contains vitamin C, it contains quite a bit of calcium, it contains iron. If I don't add spinach, I will add kale. You know, kale is renowned for having, again, quite a lot of potassium. Masses of vitamin A, masses of vitamin C, masses of vitamin K. So, you know, these are all the, you know, I suspect, unless you know about these things, unless you make a point of putting them in your diet, you don't just realise how nutritious they really are. I like to add a non-dairy milk to my smoothies. I usually use something like almond. Quite a bit of fat in there, but you know, we do need some fat. And again, you know, riboflavin, one of the B vitamins, plenty of vitamin D, vitamin A. Again, quite a lot of sodium there. We don't really necessarily need too much sodium, but
Sorry,
yes.
you soak your almonds?
This is almond milk actually that I put in there.
Yeah, that you make.
Oh, no, I just buy the prepared almond milk actually.
Sorry.
No, I would do.
Yeah.
I do make quite a few things with cashew. I make what I like as a vegan mozzarella, if you like, and I use cashews for that. I soak those, yeah. But I think almonds are even harder than cashews, aren't they? You mean for when you?
Well, they have phytates, don't they, which can be quite detrimental.
Oh yeah.
So you have to sort of rinse them.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Now I've also come across this stuff, Spirulina, which is derived from seaweed, and apart from anything that it says there about the nutritional facts, I mean, that's amazing. It's got thousands times more iron than spinach, thousands times more carotene than carrots, masses of calcium, and it's very protein. Now, you don't eat a lot of this, you know, 1 teaspoonful per smoothie, but it's incredibly nutritious. If I don't use that, then I use this stuff called Moringa, which I've only recently come across. It's derived from the leaves of an Asian plant. But again, you know, masses of these sort of nutrients that are lacking from probably quite a lot of people's. I think they would have been lacking from my diet in the past. Now, as far as the bars are concerned, the basis of them is rolled oats. Now, you know, rolled oats are fine. There's very little extraneous sugar in there. It's a good source of starch, carbohydrate, slow release carbohydrate, and that's the kind of basis of them. To which I add chia. Now, chia is one of these so-called, superfoods that was being used for centuries by the Central and South Americans. I talked about Scott Jurek earlier. There's a group of Mexican Indians called the Tarahumara who reckon to be the best runners in the world. They're a very secretive tribe, actually. Scott Jurek has run with them, and they feature in his book, and they feature in another book called Born to Run. And they more or less live on these things. They eat masses of chia. And again, the good thing about chia is it's got a lot of the essential fatty acids. So, we're not deriving those from animal material. We're deriving them from a much better source of plant material. So there's. I know. Yeah. Actually, we're talking about quite small. Well, in fact, Tesco's selling a lot of that sort of stuff. And actually, I noticed Sainsbury's was selling hemp and linseed as well. So there's obviously an increasing demand for these things.
And prices coming down more.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of these things. They're pretty expensive. Although having said that, I put in a whole batch of these bars, I put a quarter cup of these. No, half a cup of these actually. So they go quite a long way. You can put them in smoothies as well. And actually, from a cyclist point of view, if you put them in coconut water, they swell up and make a kind of gel. You put a bit of maple syrup or something like that in there to give it a bit of sweetness. It's a fantastic energy gel. You buy these energy gels from cycling shops and suppliers, and you look at the ingredients. The ingredients fill it's just horrendous what's in there. So I think that works very well. And then you've got hemp, and again, look, these are the important. Look, the amount of the so-called 3 essential fatty acids are very, very high in seeds like this. And again, put about. Is that hemp? That's flax, isn't it? Sorry, it's flax. I'm looking at that's flax. But I do put hemp in as well. And there's so much information about hemp on the internet. Actually, one thing you do find is when you try to look up exactly what there is in some of these new components of your diet, the percentages people claim do vary quite a bit. But this is a really important thing about hemp, is that it contains all the essential amino acids, and that's one of the things that opponents of plant-based diet will tell you. You're not going to get all your essential amino acids. Well, I also eat an awful lot of soy-based stuff now. I eat tofu, I eat tempeh, and so on, and I eat a lot of quinoa as well. They've got all the essential amino acids in there, so it's not a problem. They advocate putting some almond butter in there as well. That kind of helps to bind it together. Again, there's rather a lot of fat in there, so you don't want to be eating too much of it. I went to a talk. I mentioned going to this vegan festival in Blackpool. There's a guy called Neil Robinson. I don't know whether you've heard of him. He claims to be the only vegan footballer to score a goal on Match of the Day. He's an ex-Everton footballer. And I went there partly to meet him, actually, which I did. And he was advocating a low-fat vegan diet. Now, I didn't really discuss that with him at too much length. And I did wonder, we do need fat. Fat's, seen as something that we ought to be careful about. But we do need a certain amount of fat. And if you're only eating plant material and you're trying to cut fat out of that, I suspect that might not be necessarily the way forward. I can be persuaded otherwise, but I'm not sure of the evidence of that. So we put almond butter in there as well. We bind it with a little bit of coconut oil. And again, of all the oils and fats, most people would say that coconut is as healthy as any of the others. Again, it's really just providing a certain amount of lipid there. You understand what I mean by lipid? Fats, this is speaking as a biology teacher now, fats were always called fats but some fats were described as oils. They're very similar, but there are differences. And then at some point, somebody said, actually, we should call them all lipids. And we should subdivide lipids into fats and oils. So technically this would be, well, I don't know. I think it's an oil. I mean, one of the features of oils is they're normally liquid at room temperature, and coconut oil isn't. But because it's plant-based, I think it would be called an oil rather than a fat. And we put some apple sauce in there as well. Again, quite a lot of potassium, but plenty of vitamin C. And we usually add a little bit of maple syrup, maybe a bit of vanilla or whatever, to provide a bit of sweetness. So, that is incredibly nutritious. Okay, there's not a massive amount of carbohydrate. Well, actually, it's quite balanced. You wouldn't survive on that alone, but it's a pretty good thing to be having every day.
Is it worth saying also that there's no cooking involved?
There's no cooking whatsoever in any of that. It's all raw, yes. That is all raw. I have a few doubts about raw diets, or some of the claims that the raw diet proponents make. But again, I could be persuaded if